Just want to make sure I'm recording. Yeah, I bet you were expecting to get like two verdict videos at the same day. Yeah, you guys must be awesome. You must be an awesome audience as a new returning subscribers or viewers. Yeah, you guys must be very engaged, or you guys really like my personality, or the list goes on. But hey, welcome. Okay, so as I said, I'm not gonna do the same thing. Like this is not a walkthrough, playthrough, because we already did it for the medium. So just jump straight to it. This is the verdict video for the Corey. But you're wondering, wait, you're doing a movie night, so you're trying to explore all the content, all the extra content for the Corey, and then shouldn't you do the verdict video after? Well, it's my channel. Guess what? We're doing the verdict video. Why? Because it's going to be leaving on the 17th, and I know the story that I'm currently watching with my wife. We're basically just doing like another playthrough. We're trying to do that, but luckily I did a walkthrough way before the movie night, we'll call it. So we got time to come back to that, do all the extra content, and then end the video right there. Hopefully, in the future, I hope to come back to the Corey, because I enjoyed the crap out of the Corey. Sadly, I'm not going to do the medium again. I think we did enough on that, and it's really just kind of like replaying the same game, but the mystery's already been solved, and we know what to expect. That's kind of sums it up. But I really enjoyed the medium, so I might come back to it. I just won't do like a walkthrough. I think I will just do that in between streaming. Anyway, this is now about the Corey. Now, what do I give it out of 10? Same score I gave the video, 9 out of 10. But, if I had to pick between the two, like I said in the medium verdict video, I gotta go with the medium. Medium, just watch that video. It's close to, up to 40 minutes, or a little bit over, close to 50. But I gave kind of like an analysis of what I enjoyed about it, and only really one negative. Now, I made notes about the Corey and what my positive was and what's the negative. Let's begin, shall we? The negative. I'm sorry, I couldn't find a negative with the Corey. I tried. I really thought about it. I thought it was some performance issues, but no, there really wasn't any performance issues. And then I was like, there had to be a cringe-worthy line for the Corey. And I was like, there's not. Everything is natural, organic, and that's kind of how we would talk in the Corey. It's like they have great chemistry, and I was like, no, the voice acting is actually top notch. It's even better than the medium, and that's saying something. Not saying that the medium's voice acting is bad. No, it's absolutely great, especially when Troy Baker's involved. But it's Troy Baker facing pretty much actor and actresses who's actually been in movies and TV shows and they put in, let's just say, A+ performances. There are some pretty much quotable lines. Anyway, but I just couldn't find a negative with the Corey. I was trying to think it was performance issues, no. Voice acting was cringeworthy, some lines, no. Made some pacing issues with the Corey, like the medium was better paced than the Corey, but no, the Corey, whatever places we went to, there wasn't any throwaway locations. Even the pacing was great too. I think I prefer the medium in terms of their pacing because it just made sense of why we were going there. And the Corey, but it made sense of why we were going there too. I prefer the medium more. Okay, so there's really no negative I have with the Corey. You guys might be biased, you might find something, but I just couldn't find it. That's why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 for the Corey. I'll tell you what the positive, and this will be pretty quick. Okay, so the first positive on the Corey, which actually pleasantly surprised me. You know that pretty much the werewolf storyline or werewolf stories in horror movies have been done to death, like Twilight, or I think it was called American Werewolf in London. Don't quote me on that. Or just like a werewolf in Literally that Love, Death, and Robots. I think it was Love, Sex, and Robots. Love, Death, and Robots, I think. There was a werewolf that's... There's just so many werewolf horror stories that it's been done to death since the dawn of age. Or I guess when cinematography started. But we see werewolf stories lines all the time. So what the Corey did different that I loved about it is they took a meta humor and meta analysis of the werewolf and just put a unique spin. The werewolves are actually sympathetic. They're not. Oh no, they're sympathetic, but they're not too sympathetic. People die from the werewolves in this storyline. They can, and they also, when you get bit, they do naturally turn into werewolves themselves. They don't go like Twilight. This is like legit, real life werewolf. Like, okay, the werewolves are not screwing around in this one. We could actually die, kind of thing. And yes, silver bullets do affect the werewolves in this. I really thought they were gonna just like, nope, werewolves, silver bullets don't work. No, they absolutely work. And pretty much the werewolves, like when one person gets bit, it makes a they take it to a natural conclusion. Once you kill the original person who bit you, then you're human again, and you're all good. But then there's like breadcrumbs. Like, oh wait, this person bit them, but this person was the person who originally bit them. This is the original source. So yeah, it was a very unique on the werewolf mythology in terms of theirs. And their werewolves look freaky, so freaky. Not as like freaky as hell as the moth from the medium, but they were disgusting to look at too. They weren't exactly pleasant to look at, and every time we encountered them, not great at all. But I really liked their unique spin of the werewolves because it seemed like they were very passionate about horror. Clearly, the developers, Supermassive Games and 2K, were very passionate about horror. You could tell they were passionate about this project, and it shows. It really shows. Enough said. And along with that positive too that I made a note of, the multiple it helps that it's Supermassive Games and 2K collaborating. They pretty much the multiple choice, the interactive movie in a sense, it really is an interactive movie. If you love Until Dawn with its multiple choice narrative and just you don't know where the plot's going, you'll love this. It just gives you more of that, but in a like 80s campy horror vibe. So every choices that these characters make, it just makes sense because you know when they make the choice, it's going to definitely have consequences. A choice that you made in Chapter 1 will affect everything at the end. Or a choice that you know is a major story. It just made sense. Like to save this person, or to let this person die, or to kill this person. There's just so many twists and turns in its multiple choice narrative, it never falls apart. And in fact, it makes sense of why the characters are making these certain choices to this certain choices. Yeah, I'm all about that. Until Dawn, yeah, I'm glad that started that because pretty much Until Dawn and The Quarry are the perfect example of using multiple choice of narrative and never breaking the flow. Unfortunately, we have a bad example, which I think, were involved too, Supermassive, the Dark Picture Anthology. That's not how you do it. That is another example of how you not do it and ruin your gameplay with unlikable characters. But this is not about the Dark Picture Anthology. It's not, but that just the first two games. Maybe the second game doesn't bother me, but the first game bothers me, and I know why. But it's not the time and the place. We'll get to that one. Another positive, and I hate to say it, but the voice acting is much better. Here's my note about it. Awesome, natural, organic voice acting. Yes. And you could tell the developers really were passionate about this project because they told it's not just a script, it just feels like they ad-libbed, like the actors and actresses were having a freaking ball with it, and you're along with them with the ride. Unlike the medium, where the voice acting is great all the time, but Marianne's overanalysis of pretty much everything kind of is the weaker parts. Nothing for the Corey was wasted in terms of the ride. This felt like this was a Hollywood movie, but with actually better acting. Ha! Anyway, from Justice Smith to all the way to David Arquette, for the short time we got to see him, to pretty much Ted Romney. Oh man, even I didn't know he was good. But pretty much the actress who played Laura, or Brenda Song, or just the guy who plays Dylan. Everybody gives A-plus performances. Even the Hackett family, there are just A-plus performances from everybody. No one's a weak link at all. Even if it's like a minor character. Even if their character is not given time to shine, there are just A-plus performances. And you know why? It's because the characters talk in a very realistic way that we expect them in a horror movie, but they make jokes. They make jokes. They do show emotional vulnerability. They are sarcastic all the freaking time, but you love it for it because it is. You could tell this game was made with the kind of production values of a Hollywood movie, and the developers clearly put the time and research of looking at an actual horror movie and just saying, you know what? Let's just add kind of like a modern spin with it and have our characters actually talk like they're there. And appropriately freak out how they should freak out. Like Dylan pretty much seeing the werewolf freaking out, yeah, it just made sense. Justice freaking out too after getting stabbed, yeah, all their reactions are realistic and organic. It's just, if we get games like this in terms of that, which we got plenty of them, yes, please stick with the kind of motion cap and showing realistic expressions and having like natural flow dialogue. I mean, pretty much the God of War is a perfect example of using a script and just having your characters have a ball, but still pay attention to the script, but add their personality. Corey is just basically just saying, screw it, no, just let them have their ball, let them act how they should, and just let the game pretty much revolve with their acting and performances, and it really shows. It just everyone has great chemistry with each other. I was like, everyone has great chemistry, and that it just really you're having a ball, and it really helps with the voice acting. Yeah, it's one of. I will put it up there. It's up there with Mass Effect. Mass Effect is my exception of voice acting done extremely well. That's one of my top one. Along with that, that would be pretty much Naughty Dog games. It's really hard to count Last of Us Part 2, but Naughty Dog game also has solid performances too. Yeah, the Quarry's up there now. It is pretty much up there. It had some pretty quotable lines, and excellent voice acting. Enough said. Another thing, characters I actually care about. It's not just the heroes. Well, Emma and Jacob, they were hard sells, and I gotta admit, I was annoyed by the crap of them. And I was still annoyed by Jacob, but you know what they did? They actually gave the most unlikable character, Emma, and Jacob, who's also unlikable, but they gave him character development. They gave them solid character development. You understand their motivations, what made them tick, the personality, why they act the way they are. And when they die, like pretty much Caitlin or Dylan, like they did in my first playthrough, and who else died in my first playthrough too? It was Dylan, it was Dylan, Caitlin died, and there was another character, oh yeah, Max died too. But yeah, you really feel when the characters die because you took all that kind of like, well, this game took me like 8 to 9 hours, I think, a little bit more. But you took the time to get to know the characters and understand where they're coming from. So when they bite the dust, you really feel it. It's not just a simple like, oh, horror death, move on. No, these guys you got to know, and it really kind of freaking sucks. Even the Hackett family, you feel kind of sympathetic, even though they're kind of the cause of all this. But you really feel for the family because they're actually a family. And it helps we understand their motivations because of pretty much Travis. He has the most best character development because you see the family, but they're kind of like cliche, like horror villains, but they have great performances. Like I said, great A-plus performances. From Constance, she's played by a familiar actress. She is given pretty much the best lines. So not just her, but yeah, Lance that we know as Commander Shepard from Modern Warfare 2, it's so short, but he gives a great performance too. Ethan Suplee as Bobby, great performance. David Arquette as basically also a villain. Everyone just it's not just the heroes. We get to know the villains and the family tree, and we kind of understand where they're coming from. That's what actually gets me too. And it's not just them. The host, or basically Eliza, the main freaking villain also, and her son Silence, yeah, they're giving pretty A-plus performances too. I really like her script at the end. She's ad-libbing, but well done. Very well done. But yeah, all the characters, there are two sides to them, and that's what I love about it. I don't know if Until Dawn took that approach too, but the villains are not cookie cutters and they're not pretty much straightforward. No, they have layers to them too, same as the heroes. So you kind of very much root for the heroes, but you kind of understand the villains and you kind of understand why they're doing what they are. So yeah, characters I actually give a damn about. So also moving on. This kind of goes along with 2K and Supermassive Games, but excellent cinematography, excellent production values, from pretty much the visual design, and on a technical wise, from the visual design to the color palette to the character's motion cap. Clearly, there was a budget in this, and they really they went for it, and the sales are probably going to show for it. But yeah, it's great production. It is essentially a movie. There's actually a movie mode, and I love that too. But it's just so you're not going to be disappointed with the production value. It just felt like this was made by someone from Hollywood, just in a video game format that actually works. It's great cinematography, from the camera angles to pretty much the cutscenes itself to when there's actually gameplay sequences. It's just excellent production values that never really tears up, no frame rate issues. It's refreshing. It's really refreshing. And I'm actually very surprised of all the production values that they pretty much accounted for. There was nothing that was a weak link. Yeah, bravo, Supermassive Games and 2K. Enough said. You guys are doing extremely well. So yeah, the excellent cinematography kind of aligns with the sudden visual design. There was no awkward technical issues that I noticed in terms of the graphics. The graphics were much better than the medium. I hate to say it, medium had some good graphics, but it was not better than the Quarry. Quarry clearly had the best graphics on the technical and not artistic, but on technical wise, because they had motion cap. They had motion cap in terms of medium, but you could tell it was made for maybe international. I think they were Polish, Wilbur Game or something, but get off track. Moving on. So that kind of the visual design and with excellent motion cap, there was no awkward motion cap that I noticed too. Yeah, they basically took the heavy rain but really Until Dawn. They took that approach, but just kind of made it moderate and just kind of very like a great ebb and flow. Enough said. Okay. Even though I like the medium's excellent haunting soundtrack that I give a 20 out of 10, and that's me just being biased, I wasn't crazy about this, the original soundtrack for the Quarry. It fits, but it's nothing to write home about. You know what actually really works? The licensed soundtrack. The licensed soundtrack for the Quarry is excellent. From the ending song, from the beginning song, from the beginning song to the ending song, all the licensed soundtrack are actually very fantastic. Nothing is a weak link. That's what kind of surprised me. All the licensed soundtracks are kind of you could download them on Spotify and not be disappointed. It's a great licensed soundtrack. Every soundtrack fits well for the situation. Maybe there's one, but there's excellent licensed soundtrack for most of the scenes in the game. Pleasantly surprised. Of course, their rendition of Fly Me to the Moon, or just kind of the ending song. The ending song is perfect. Ending song is perfect for this. And, speaking of which, yeah, let's go to the ending. Now, the ending I prefer in the medium because of its ambiguity, and like I explained, but the ending for the Quarry, yes, it plays out like any horror if you say in a horror movie or horror game, it plays out like that. Only horror game has more control, but anyway, besides the point, I like that it shows the status of your character is dead or alive. I don't see that a lot in horror games, and I freaking love it. They really were passionate about this project, and I love that it actually shows your character that this is how they died. I was like, shoot, you're right, that is how they actually died because of my choice. I thought it was creative ending with this credits because it actually showed that. Like, your character survived it, or pretty much by the dust. I just love that. Especially when Caitlin, Dylan, and Max die, and then it showed my characters of how they died. They showed me already, and I already know how they died. But showing how they died, it close the credit, it really hits you. It really hits you. It hits you there. But when all your characters survive, and it shows that status, and all the characters who needed to die, it's such a creative closing credits with the perfect song to encapsulate this kind of game. Yeah, that sums it up. I can't say anything else. Plus, it's a great, because of the excellent voice acting, they even do a podcast where the actor and the actress in that, they're fantastic. Yeah, it's great comedy gold, and you love hearing about pretty much a podcast because it could lead somewhere, and I love that. But of course, this is kind of like a one-off game, so if they move on to other projects, that's totally understandable. But that podcast was coming to go, and depending on how far me and my wife actually gets to the podcast, well, not the podcast, the movie night, if we get pretty far, cool, then I'll do the podcast, but I already did the verdict video, but really the last few things we'll do is the podcast. But, to add another positive about the Quarry 2 that actually surprised me, it has so much accessibility. You don't have to necessarily play the game. You just have the option to play the game. It's fun to play the game and have that interactive movie. But you can do a movie mode if you're just like, you know what, let's chill it with my wife and let's just watch a movie. I love that it gives you that option. And I also like that you can pretty much change up pretty much the accessibility of your game. You don't have to play a game a certain way. I just like the accessibility. And the extra content, too. I love that. Plus, you have podcasts that pretty much adds to that mystery conspiracy after what you just played. And, yeah, there are collectibles, but if you played Until Dawn, they're essentially that, and I love it, too. Yeah, I think it deserved a 9 out of 10. People might be... The only thing that will kind of no, I won't play this, is there are some, it is a slow burn towards the beginning, and in the middle, the werewolves haven't shown up, so there's no jump scare, so you're literally just kind of, walking, talking with your character, getting to know them, and doing a flashback sequence. If you can deal with the flashback sequence and kind of, slow burn, you're in for a treat. Oh, yeah, this is basically a horror movie that you can kind of share with your friends, and some of your families, and just kind of chill out. Yeah, 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 is appropriate. Now, if basically it depends of between the medium and the Quarry, what you guys would pick. I feel like most of the majority would pick the Quarry because it is basically, if you've seen horror movies like Sleepaway Camp and all that, people are going to lean to the Quarry because it's kind of one of those, the popular choice. That would make sense. But if you're looking for psychological horror, something extremely fresh, and and you don't know what to expect, play the medium. It's going to be hard to recommend the medium because of its darker tones. Definitely darker tones than this one. It's definitely a darker game than the Quarry. But that's kind of my cup of tea, and I don't mind playing the medium again. If I had another chance, I'm going to play the medium again. If you tell me, hey, are you going to pick the Quarry or the medium? Medium. Easy. Yeah, like I said. I'm not saying the Quarry is a bad game. No. Clearly the developers were really passionate about the Quarry. But you could tell the developers were passionate about the medium. It's pretty much it's no lose-lose situation. You're going to have fun with one of the two. Okay, so of course, leave that like, comment, or subscribe. That's the overall message. But here's what's going to be the schedule. And I think this one was close to 46 minutes, too. Oh, wow, really? 24 minutes. That actually shocked me. I felt like I've been talking for a while, but I did a verdict video on the medium back to back, and I talked a lot more in that one. Alright, so here is going to be the schedule. Since we officially finished 2 games I actually gave a crap about, and nothing else, that games are leaving October 17th, we're going to go back to doing the 1 video per game for each alphabetical order. Try to finish it pretty fast this year. Depending on scheduling wise, once we're done, then we're going to finally move on to the 3 main games I want to do. Basically, Marvel's Miles Morales, because obviously Marvel Spider-Man 2 is coming out, I guess, in 5 days. And I'm highly excited about it. I'm going to try to do non-spoilers. Absolutely non-spoilers. I have a good idea where it's going, but non-spoilers. I have no idea how the story is going to go, and I love it. Yeah. But yeah, we want to at least catch up on Miles Morales, because that's definitely a central story. We gotta know what's going on with that. And because I finished Marvel Spider-Man, so luckily, Marvel's Miles Morales shouldn't take us long. Shouldn't take me long. So that's one of the big games I want to do once I'm done with that big orders. Second game I want to do is Returnal. I want to go back to that. I freaking like Returnal. I'm excited to always go back to that. I really want to finish that. That's one of the games I really do want to finish. Before PlayStation Plus gets wise and say, you know, we would be happy if you spend $70 on Returnal. I'm not in a rush to spend that much for Returnal, but I do want to play it for the time that we got it. It's a fantastic game. Please keep Returnal on PlayStation Plus Extra Freedom. That's the game that people will go to. It is a fantastic game. I love that game. I love coming back to it. So, that's another game. The third game I want to come back to is definitely Horizon. Horizon Frozen Wild. I want to finish that out. It will take me a little bit because it is kind of like a big subsection of the big main OG campaign. You can't deny that. So that's pretty much the scheduling for the future. Finishing it after making orders. Unless there is a game in November that leaves, then I will focus on those games. But we'll try to do something in November. If it's like one game that is free, I'm like, hey, that's important. I kind of want to play that before it leaves. Then I'm going to focus on that. Hopefully, it's not any games I like that will disappear, because most of the games I like have disappeared, but luckily I have finished the majority of them. Shenmue 3 was no loss. I will say that much. I'm sorry, I just did not like Shenmue 3. I had the first 2, I just did not care about Shenmue 3. Enough said. But for Tuesday, and we'll see how that goes, but for Tuesday, we are going to focus on just a few new games. 2 videos per game. It could take me Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll see. But that's kind of next week too. Okay, so that's our scheduling. So let's move on.